Yes, welcome back to our CA Foundation Accounts lectures. Now, chapter number 2, that is capital and revenue transactions. What is it? Chapter 2, capital and revenue transactions. Here, transactions means you know that in chapter number 1 we discussed transactions are two types. What are the two types? Cash transaction, credit transaction. Same manner, we can divide transactions into two types: capital transactions and revenue transactions. What are those transactions? Capital transactions and revenue transactions. First of all, put a heading chapter number 2, capital and revenue transaction. Then write a first slide, types of transactions. Under that, first one capital transaction, second one revenue transaction. Capital transactions, revenue transactions. So in this chapter, major focus on what are the capital transactions, what are the revenue transactions. That means what are capital expenditure, what are revenue expenditure, what are capital receipts, what are revenue receipts. In addition to this, there is a small concept called deferred revenue expenditure. After that, first topic is capital expenditure. What is meant by capital expenditure? Ante expenditure incurred on purchase, alteration or improvement of fixed assets. అంటే ఒక అసెట్ని పర్చేస్ చేయడానికి కానీ, లేదా దాని ఆల్టరేషన్ కోసం కానీ, లేదా ఇంప్రూవ్మెంట్ కోసం కానీ జరిగే ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ని క్యాపిటల్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ అంటారు. Example, purchase of car. We can bifurcate into two. First one is purchase of fixed asset, asset purchase cheyadaniki. Second one, alteration, improvement of fixed asset. First one purchase cheyadaniki, second one alteration gaani improvement of asset. Simple Anna. If a business organization wants to purchase a fixed asset, that expenditure is called a capital expenditure. Best example, purchase of building. Business entity purchased a building, that means that is a fixed asset, so that is a capital expenditure. Purchase of, I'll write it here, then you will get clarity. Okay. Capital expenditure. ఏంటి క్యాపిటల్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ అంటే, అండర్ దట్ ఫస్ట్ వన్ పర్చేజ్ ఆఫ్ ఫిక్స్డ్ అసెట్. అంటే ఫిక్స్డ్ అసెట్ పర్చేజ్ చేయడానికి అయినటువంటి ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ని క్యాపిటల్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ అంటారు. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్, ల్యాండ్ పర్చేజ్ చేసాం 20 lakhs, క్యాపిటల్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్. బిల్డింగ్ పర్చేజ్ చేసాం 30 crore, క్యాపిటల్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్. ప్లాంట్ అండ్ మిషనరీ పర్చేజ్ చేసాం 20 lakh, క్యాపిటల్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్. ఫర్నిచర్ అండ్ ఫిక్చర్స్ 25,000, capital expenditure. So amount of expenditure incurred on purchase of fixed asset is a capital expenditure. Second one, if you observe it, purchase of alteration or improvement of fixed asset. అంటే ఏంటంటే జాగ్రత్తగా వినండి. ఒక అసెట్, మన దగ్గర ఒక బిల్డింగ్ ఉంది. లెట్ మీ టేక్ దిస్ బిల్డింగ్ ఓన్లీ. ఈ బిల్డింగ్లో 2 ఫ్లోర్స్ ఉన్నాయి. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇదే బిల్డింగ్ని నేను ఇంకో ఫ్లోర్ కన్స్ట్రక్షన్ చేస్తే, 3rd ఫ్లోర్ కన్స్ట్రక్షన్ చేస్తే, దట్ ఈస్ ఇంప్రూవ్మెంట్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ బిల్డింగ్, దట్ ఈస్ ఆల్సో ఏ క్యాపిటల్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్. లేకపోతే ఈ బిల్డింగ్ నేను ఆల్టరేషన్ చేసి షాపింగ్ మాల్లో మారుస్తున్నాను, దట్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ ఆల్సో క్యాపిటల్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్. ఐ రిపీట్, ఈ బిల్డింగ్ మీద ఇంకో ఫ్లోర్ కన్స్ట్రక్షన్ చేసిన దట్ ఈస్ క్యాపిటల్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్. అది బిల్డింగ్ మొత్తం ఆల్టరేషన్ చేసేస్తున్నా సరే, దట్ ఈస్ ఆల్సో క్యాపిటల్ expenditure. Improvement or alteration of a fixed asset is also a capital expenditure. So if you observe the definition once, expenditure incurred on purchase, alteration or improvement of fixed asset is a capital expenditure. Best example, purchase of car, land, building, furniture, all the fixed asset are example for the capital expenditure. In addition to that, we can add a construction of a additional floor in the same building, or alteration of a building from a shop residential property to the shopping mall commercial purpose. Okay, if purchase of fixed asset is a capital expenditure, alteration of fixed asset is a capital expenditure, renovation, improvement of a fixed asset is also a capital expenditure. Purchase, alteration or improvement of fixed asset is a capital expenditure. Okay, purchase of land, capital expenditure. Purchase of building, capital expenditure. Purchase of furniture, capital expenditure. Purchase of a laptop, capital expenditure. Next, alteration of a building, capital expenditure. Alteration of a particular land, capital expenditure. Alteration of furniture, capital expenditure. Alteration of building, capital expenditure. Constructing a additional floor on the same building, capital expenditure. Improving benches in the classroom, capital expenditure. Okay, next one, revenue expenditure. Simple ga cheppalante, other than capital expenditure is the revenue expenditure. This expenditure is majorly incurred for running of business. Business run cheyadaniki కావాల్సినటువంటి ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ ని, జరిగే ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ ని రెవెన్యూ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్స్ అంటారు. ఓకేనా? ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్, కాస్ట్ ఆఫ్ పెట్రోల్ ఆర్ డీజిల్ ఫర్ వ్యాన్. వ్యాన్కి అయ్యేటటువంటి పెట్రోల్ కాస్ట్ కానీ డీజిల్ కాస్ట్ కానీ ఏమంటారు సార్ అంటే రెవెన్యూ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్. దీనికంటే బెస్ట్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ శాలరీ. శాలరీ ఇవ్వకపోతే ఎంప్లాయీస్ వర్క్ చేస్తారా? నో. సో దట్ ఈస్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ ఫర్ రన్నింగ్ ఏ బిజినెస్. ఇఫ్ యూ అబ్జర్వ్ ది డెఫినిషన్, if you observe the meaning in your slide, expenditure incurred in the running of business. బిజినెస్ రన్ చేయడానికి కావాల్సినటువంటి ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ని, జరిగే ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ని రెవెన్యూ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ అంటారు. బెస్ట్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ సాలరీస్, రెంట్, ఎనీథింగ్ యూ వాంట్, పవర్ బిల్, పెట్రోల్, diesel cost, electricity cost, all these are revenue expenditure because these are the expenditures required for running a business in a particular year. The next one, capitalized expenditure. Something different concept. Before that, let me give you an example. Because this is summer, I'll take an example of AC. We purchased an AC. AC purchase చేసాం. AC కాస్ట్ ఒక 35,000. సో మనం ఇన్స్టాలేషన్ చేసుకోలేము కదా, ఖచ్చితంగా ఒక పర్సన్ రావాలి. ఆ పర్సన్ ఇన్స్టాలేషన్ చేసినందుకు ఆ పర్సన్కి మనం ఇన్స్టాలేషన్ ఫీజు పే చేయాలి. ఆ ఫీ 1000 రూపీస్. ఏసీ పర్చేజ్ చేసి మనం ఇంట్లో తెచ్చి పెట్టుకున్నాం. ఆ ఏసీ అలా ఉంటే మనకు యూజ్ వస్తుందా, బెనిఫిట్ వస్తుందా ఏసీ వల్ల? ఏసీ ఫిక్స్ చేయాలి వాళ్ళకి. ఆ ఫిక్స్ చేసే ప్రాసెస్కి వీ హ్యావ్ టు పే 1000 రూపీస్. దట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ ఇన్స్టాలేషన్ ఫీ. that installation fee is compulsory for getting benefit from that AC. So that 1000 rupees, that is installation fee, is also a capital expenditure. That means we have to add the 1000 to the 35,000. Clear? I repeat the example. నేను ఒక అసెట్ పర్చేజ్ చేసాం. ఆ అసెట్ కాల్డ్ ఏసీ. ఏసీ కాస్ట్ 35,000 రూపీస్. ఏసీ తీసుకొచ్చి ఎలా ఇప్పుడు ఇక్కడ పెట్టాం. ఏసీ వల్ల నువ్వు బెనిఫిట్ వస్తుందా? ఏసీ వల్ల నువ్వు ఆ ఏసీని ఫిక్స్ చేయాలి. ఫిక్స్ చేయాలంటే ఆ కన్సర్న్ ఎక్స్పర్ట్ వచ్చి ఫిక్స్ చేయాలి. దట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ ఇన్స్టాలేషన్ ఆఫ్ ఏసీ. దాన్ని ఇన్స్టాల్ చేయాలంటే ఒక పర్సన్ వచ్చి ఫిక్స్ చేస్తారు. సో దట్ వీ హ్యావ్ టు పే సమ్ అమౌంట్ టు ది such person. Let me take 1000 rupees. The fee of concerned person, concerned expert is 1000. So unless and until that AC is affixed to the wall, manaki we didn't, I mean we can't get a benefit from that AC. That means that AC fixation cost is also a capital expenditure. That means we have to add that 1000 rupees of installation charges to the AC cost. That means total cost is 35 plus 1, 36, not 35. Okay. Let me take one more example. మన దగ్గర ఒక మెషిన్ పర్చేజ్ చేసాం. ఫారెన్ నుంచి వస్తుంది. దానికి మనకి అది ఫిక్స్ చేయాలి, అంత నాలెడ్జ్ మన దగ్గర లేదు. అక్కడ నుంచి కొంతమంది పర్సన్స్ వచ్చి ఫిక్స్ చేసి వెళ్ళిపోయారు. ఆ ఫిక్స్ చేసినందుకు మనం వాళ్ళకి ఒక $20 పే చేసాం. లెట్ మీ టేక్ 15,000 పే చేసాం. దట్ 15,000 ఈజ్ ఎ క్యాపిటల్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్. వై? బికాస్ without that fixation we can't get a benefit from that particular machinery. Okay, so we have to add that expenditure to the asset. That means we have to add that expenditure to the capital. That means to the asset. That means that expenditure also a capital expenditure, not revenue expenditure. I think you got a clarity now. Capital expenditure means expenditure incurred for purchase of fixed asset, for alteration of fixed asset, for improvement of fixed asset. Now new point added. What is it? Expenditure incurred in the running of expenditure connected with the purchase of fixed asset. Best example, installation cost. Okay, these are also capital expenditures. Examples: wages paid for installation of machinery. You can write a best example. AC is the best example for capitalized expenditure. I'll give you time. Please write these 3 slides. I think you wrote capital expenditure, right? No. Write this chart. Capital expenditure. Expenditure incurred on purchase, alteration or improvement of fixed asset. Examples: purchase of car, land, buildings. All these are examples for capital expenditures. After that, revenue expenditure. Revenue expenditures are simply not a capital expenditures. So expenditure incurred for running the business. Examples, we can say examples: salaries, rent, power, electricity. All these are examples for revenue expenditures. Note this chart also. Write example as salary. Then write capitalized expenditure. Capitalized expenditure means expenditure connected with the purchase of fixed asset. Like best example is wages paid for installation of machinery. We can write installation of AC. Okay, that is a capitalized expenditure, important one. I hope you are getting my point. Then treatment of capital and revenue expenditure. What is the treatment of capital expenditure? What is the treatment of revenue expenditure? So you tell me, capital expenditure ante enti sir ante nothing but asset, ante kada. For example, asset purchase chesam, asset adi, asset improvement chesam, asset, alterate chesam, asset. So capital expenditure is nothing but asset. So because this is asset, it will come under asset side of balance sheet. That means right side of balance sheet, that is called asset side of balance sheet. If you take revenue expenditure is not an asset, this is my expense. So because this is expense, either it will come under a profit and loss account balance sheet, or it will come under trading account debit side. Are you getting my point? Because this is expense, either it will come under profit and loss account debit side or trading account debit side, like wages, carriage inward, or salaries or rent. That is the treatment action. You can look at your screen, you can see treatment of capital and revenue expenditure. Under that first one are shown in a balance sheet asset side, because this is asset, right? Next, revenue expenditure are shown in a trading and P&L account debit side, because this is my expense. Because this is expense, it will come under debit side, maybe trading account or profit and loss account. Clear? I repeat total concept. Capital expenditure is nothing but asset. Because this is asset, it will come under asset side of balance sheet. Next concept, revenue expenditure. Revenue expenditure is my expense, not my asset. Because this is expense, it will come under trading account debit side or P&L account debit side. Because expense will come under debit side, right? Either maybe trading account or P&L account, because that is my expense. If it is asset, what will happen? It will come under balance sheet asset side. Okay, please note this chart, very important. I hope you got my point. You understood the concept. I hope you understood the concept. Okay. If you are okay, then I will go to the next concept. Shall I move to the next concept? Okay. revenue receipts. We spoke about capital expenditure, then revenue expenditure, then capitalized expenditure. Now revenue receipts. What is that? Revenue receipts. That means we are receiving. For example, we are receiving something, that is a receipt, maybe a revenue receipt or capital receipt. If it is related to my normal ordinary activity, that is revenue receipt, otherwise that is capital receipt. Okay. One more thing, if it comes only one time in the life, that is capital. Every year it comes, that is a revenue. Okay, let's see what will happen. Revenue receipts. Receipts or incomes which are received by business organization in the course of normal activities or revenue receipts. If we are receiving in the course of normal activity, that is a revenue receipt. Why? Because we are receiving in the normal course. That means we are selling the goods, we are receiving the money. That is my normal activity, nothing new. If it is a normal activity, that is revenue. Other than normal activity, that is a capital expenditure. Are you getting my point? That's it. Next one, capital receipts. What is that? Capital receipts. Exact opposite to the revenue receipt. In revenue receipt, what will happen? In normal course of business, we will receive something from some person or some entity. Important word is normal activities, like a sale of goods, other than a revenue or capital receipts. That is important, which are not of revenue nature. One more point is that receipts which are not received now, then can be treated as a capital receipt. ఇప్పుడు రానివి ఫ్యూచర్లో ఎప్పుడు వస్తాయంటే దట్ ఈస్ ఆల్సో క్యాపిటల్ రిసీట్స్. ఓకే, సింపుల్గా చెప్పాలంటే లైఫ్ టైం మెంబర్షిప్ ఇప్పుడు వస్తుందా? ఓన్లీ వన్ టైం, దట్ ఈస్ ఏ రెవెన్యూ రిసీట్, సారీ క్యాపిటల్ రిసీట్. I'll revise the two concept, revenue receipts and capital receipts. Revenue receipts means we are receiving in the ordinary course of business. Capital receipts are not a revenue transactions. One more point is given, there is not received now. Example, lifetime membership. Let us solve some problems. That is illustration number 1. So, capital contributed by members. Members capital ని కాంట్రిబ్యూట్ చేస్తున్నారు. ఎవరు కాంట్రిబ్యూట్ చేస్తున్నారంటే కంపెనీకి కాంట్రిబ్యూట్ చేస్తున్నారు. మీకు ఇక్కడ ఆ పాయింట్ సాల్వ్ చేయాలంటే నీకు సమ్ బేసిక్ ఐడియా రిగార్డింగ్ కంపెనీ ఉండాలి. కంపెనీ గురించి నీకు ఒక బేసిక్ ఐడియా ఉండాలి. ఓకే, కంపెనీ గురించి ఒక బేసిక్ ఐడియా ఉండాలి. వాట్ ఈస్ కంపెనీ? లెట్ మీ టేక్ అన్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్. యూ ఆర్ అవేర్ ఆఫ్ టాటా లిమిటెడ్, రైట్? విని ఉంటారు, టాటా స్టీల్స్, టాటా గ్రూప్ ఆఫ్ కంపెనీస్, టాటా వాట్ యూ కాల్ టాటా మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరర్స్ ఉంది, టాటా ఆటోమొబైల్స్ ఈస్ దేర్, టాటా స్టీల్ ఈస్ దేర్. ఇన్ ఎవ్రీ సెక్టర్ టాటా ఈస్ దేర్. You know the person name Ratan Tata, right? So Tata Limited owner Ratan Tata అని మీరు అనుకుంటున్నారు. అంటే మీ పర్సెప్షన్లో టాటా లిమిటెడ్ అనే కంపెనీ రతన్ టాటాది అని మీ అజంప్షన్. అంటే టోటల్ అమౌంట్ రతన్ టాటా ఒక్కళ్ళే పెట్టారు. అండ్ ఇప్పుడు ప్రాఫిట్ ఎర్న్ చేస్తారని మీరు అనుకుంటున్నారు. ఇన్ ఫ్యాక్ట్ దట్ ఈస్ నాట్ అట్ ఆల్ ట్రూ. నాట్ ఓన్లీ రతన్ టాటా, there are some other members also there. That members are called shareholders or members. They may be outside public or board of directors, anybody. Let me take a Tata Limited లో షేర్స్ మనం పర్చేజ్ చేయొచ్చు అవుట్సైడ్ పబ్లిక్. వీళ్ళు ఇన్వెస్ట్ చేస్తే, ఇన్వెస్ట్ చేయడం అంటే ఏంటంటే షేర్స్ పర్చేజ్ చేసుకోవాలి. వీళ్ళు కంపెనీ మనకి షేర్స్ ఇస్తుంది, మనం వాళ్ళకి మనీ ఇస్తున్నాం. దట్ మీన్స్ వీఆర్ పర్చేజింగ్ షేర్స్ ఫ్రమ్ ది కంపెనీ. ఇన్ దట్ మేనర్ we are the shareholders of the company. In fact, we are the owners of the company, but our share is a minimum share. In fact, Ratan Tata is holding more than 50% share in Ratan Tata Limited. That's why he is controlling the company. But we are having little bit of share. That's why we are not controlling the Tata Limited, but we have a share in the company. Are you getting my point? Done. I repeat the example, Tata Limited. You know the Tata Limited and you know the Ratan Tata also. In your perception, Ratan Tata is the sole owner of the Tata Limited, but that is not at all correct. In addition to the Ratan Tata, there are some other persons also there who are also investors in Tata Limited. They are called members or shareholders. Even we can invest in the Tata Limited. That means we can also be a shareholder of the Tata Limited. Are you getting my point? So if company wants to give a shares, public can invest in the money by paying money, they will get a shares. That persons are called shareholders or members. Okay, so in this manner, whatever the money invested by the shareholders, in company's point of view, that is a capital receipt, not revenue receipt, because we are receiving one time. That is not our normal activity. Our normal activity is producing goods and sale of goods, not of daily receiving cash from the shareholders and paying again to the shareholders. That is not our main business. Our main business is producing the goods and selling of goods. So whatever received from the members or shareholders to the company is a capital expenditure, not a revenue expenditure. Are you getting my point? Done. Now see the slide, you will get a clarity. Capital contributed by the members. Whatever the capital contributed by the members or their shareholders is a capital expenditure, capital receipt, because we are receiving, not we are paying. So whatever the receipt given by the members or shareholders is a capital receipt, not a revenue receipt, because this is not my normal activity. This is the occasional activity. So this is my revenue expenditure, not a this is my capital receipt, not a revenue receipt. Okay, point number 2, share capital contributed by the shareholders or members. Same point, whatever the capital contributed to the members or shareholders is a capital, because that is not my normal activity. My normal activity is producing goods and selling of goods. This is not my normal activity. This is my occasional activity. This is my capital receipt, not a revenue receipt. Third one, loan raised. That means we are raising the loans from so and so bank. Let me take example of Canara Bank. We are taking loan from Canara Bank. That means we are taking loan from Canara Bank. That means we are receiving the cash from the bank as a loan. Are you getting my point? That means we are receiving cash. That means that is a receipt. Are you agree with me? That is receipt, not an expenditure, because we are receiving. But that is not my normal activity. That is not my normal, because we are not selling the goods to the SBI. Okay, if we sold goods to SBI, if SBI paid cash to me, then that is my revenue receipt. But here I am not selling goods to the SBI. I am taking money from the SBI as a loan. That is my capital receipt, not revenue receipt. Okay, next one, Proceeds from sale of fixed asset. Proceeds from sale of fixed asset means we are getting money from so and so person for sale of fixed asset. That means we sold our fixed asset and we are getting the money. Ultimately, we are getting the money. That means we are receiving money. That means that is a receipt, not expenditure. But that is not my normal activity. That is not my normal activity. That is occasional thing happened because of so many reasons behind the screen. That is, in fact, if I sold goods, that is a revenue receipt. But I am selling my building. I am selling my asset, fixed asset. That is a capital receipt, not a revenue receipt. Next point. Life membership fee in case of clubs and association. If we are running a club, there is a concept called life membership fee. అంటే ఒక్కసారి కనుక పే చేస్తే కనుక లైఫ్ టైం మెంబర్షిప్ ఫీ తనకి ఇచ్చేస్తాం. దట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ లైఫ్ మెంబర్షిప్ ఫీ. ఇఫ్ life membership fee is received from the members or out to the public, that is a capital receipt because that is not my regular normal activity. If it is a normal activity, that is a revenue receipt, but this is not a normal activity, that's why this is a capital receipt, not revenue receipt. Okay. Next one, legacies. Legacies means inheritance concept. That means a child is receiving assets from the parent on the death of the parent. That is called varasatva. By inheritance, he is getting assets from his parents. That is also a one-time activity. That is not a revenue normal activity. That is also capital receipt, not a revenue receipt. Next one, government grants for specific purpose. That means we are receiving a grant for a particular purpose. Same think as same point of view. We are the business organization. We are receiving government grant from a government, central government. Let me take central government. We are doing some social activity. So government is impressed with our activities and they granted some 20 crores grants to us. We are receiving 20 crores from PM Modi as a government grant for a particular purpose. That is my capital receipt, not a revenue receipt. My activity is not to impress Narendra Modi. My activity is not to getting grant from Narendra Modi. My activity is different. I am getting grant from the PM Narendra Modi is occasional thing. That is my capital expenditure. Sorry, capital receipt because I am receiving. Next one, donations for specific purpose. Important. If we are receiving donations generally without any specific purpose, that is a revenue receipt. That is normal thing. If we are receiving donations for a specific purpose, if they mention for specific purpose, that is a capital receipt, not revenue receipt. I hope you understood the concept. Okay. Let me revise all the 8 examples. Example number 1, whatever the capital contributed by the members or shareholders is called a capital receipt. Point number 2 is same. Point number 3, a loan raised from a particular bank. We are raising a loan from a bank is a capital receipt because my normal activity is not to raise a loan from the bank. Point number 4, proceeds from sale of fixed asset. If we are selling the fixed asset, that we are receiving the money, that is not at all revenue nature, that is capital nature. Legacy is a capital nature. Government grants is a capital nature. Donations for specific purpose, capital nature. For general purpose, that is revenue receipt. Okay. Important chapter. Please revise this concept before you going to the next video. Thank you. All the best. In next class, we'll go to the further concepts. Thank you. Bye. All the best. Write this example and answer. Do it answers on your own. Write this example and solve this example on your own and write the answers. Okay, write this all 8 example and write the answers. In next class, I will give you the answer for all the 8 questions. In illustration number 1. Okay, then bye, all the best.